My microphone wasn't working the entire time. All right, well. Now that that's fixed, I will wait a few moments as usual, and then I will be talking about culture. What a cool thing to be talking about. I do think it's, while I wait for people to come in, I'll just sort of organize my thoughts, but understanding sort of how cultures differ can be a very strong reason. Um, it, yeah, good thing I'm organizing my thoughts. Understanding the strengths and weaknesses of different areas, geographical areas, and different people will let you understand what your strengths are. And it feels like you can try and compare EU versus NA or EU versus CBLL, EU versus LPL and LCK. But if you don't understand culturally how we're different and why things are the way they are, you won't understand what's going on, right? It won't make sense to you. So that's part of the reason. If you try to take the same approach with, LCK that you're doing with NA, it's not going to make sense. And I have a bunch of examples to sort of um, show why it's important to understand the culture of the place that you're in. And once you understand that then you can approach people. It's not just in gaming, it's not just in LCK versus LCS, it's just there's a very distinct difference that I can point out, and that's sort of the reason why I picked that. But it's also like society and how society works and how like advertising agencies work, how why, social media marketing is like influencer marketing is a thing. That's part of it too. It's part of culture. It's also like what apps you have on your phone. That's also part of, culture. What messaging systems we use is different. WhatsApp advertising is going to work much better in South America than it is in the US, right? If you could do like sort of TikTok, like you could market using WhatsApp differently, um, that would be pretty big. As in Korea, using WhatsApp wouldn't be, the way to go. It'd be using Kakao Talk, right? Or Line in Japan and stuff like that. Um, Culture matters. It's quite important. And oh no. I want to sort of dissect some key factors when it comes to culture and why they actually matter when it comes to the thinking of LCK versus LPL versus, LCS and whatnot. I think we've been going for long enough. I can just go ahead and get started. All right. So to start off, I'll talk about the LCK. And before I talk about LCK, I'll talk about where it is. It's in Korea. In Korea, understanding the culture of Korea, I will explain a little bit about Korea. And you might wonder, hey, what do you know about Korean culture? Well, I know a little bit. I've been there before. I've never lived there, but I've had a lot of friends who have lived there, Koreans. I was part of an exchange program where Korean students who used to come to my university would not speak English, or very little English, and they would need help. And so I would be there available for them to, help them out and teach them English. And at the same time, they would teach me Korean. So at some point, I had very good Korean. I even went to Korea and just managed with. I told myself I'm not going to eat any American food, like any East Western food. I'm only going to eat Korean food, and I'm not going to speak any English. And I was fine. I survived. The first couple days were a little rough, but I messaged some of my Korean friends and they helped me out. And then we moved on. So I think I have a pretty good understanding of the culture, whether it's from like years of language exchange with different Koreans or having Korean friends or being in Korea, visiting Korea, whatnot. Um, Korea is a small country, and I just want to get my facts straight. Population of Korea. It's about 51 million. That's like, I don't know, 10 million bigger than California. I want to see what the Korea size, like 38.72 thousand miles squared. I mean, California area. Yeah, California is like 10 times bigger. It's not even close. Um, California, sorry, Korea has a lot of people, but it's relatively small. It's like if you look on the map, it's a really small area. And the reason I talk about that is because when you look at the US, it's huge. And the cultural differences between the East versus the West, between even one state to the next, can be very, very big. Um, and that matters in understanding the US culture and realizing that people from Oklahoma, people from Texas are not going to be the same as people from New York or people from California, right? Those are going to be very different things. Korea, on the other hand, has less differences between, someone all the way up in Seoul and someone, in Busan. Obviously, if you're talking about Jeju Island, they might be different, but in general, Koreans are more uniform. Not saying that there's no differences, just comparatively, right, to the United States. And one big difference is, and you'll see this if you've ever been to Korea. Um, they are very, I don't want to say use the word clicky, but if something becomes popular in Korea, everyone does it. Like if a makeup style becomes popular, 90% of the people are just going to, tag along. If a certain style becomes popular, everyone's going to do that. And at first I thought it was an exaggeration, but when I went to Korea, it was winter and I had my coat. And every single person, Korean person that I saw, literally every single one, old, young, and in between, wore the same exact style of coat. There's no way that would ever happen here in the US. The chances of me finding someone, two random people wearing the same style, sure. Three, coincidence. Everybody, that's just never, ever going to happen. Um, and that's important to understanding why League of Legends and why Korea has a different culture behind it, and why the view count of Korea is like 10 times, the peak viewership of Korea is 10 times bigger than the US. There are many reasons. One of them is understanding the culture of Korean people. Um, I will give another example. For example, Brazil has heavy, heavy, heavy investment in soccer, whereas in the United States, soccer is a sport that we invest in, but we invest in soccer, baseball, football, softball, like hockey. We have so many different basketball, so many different sports, swimming, running. I'm not saying that these other countries don't spend that, infrastructure and it's not like culturally accepted to play those other sports. It's just very different when something is part of your culture. And one thing that is part of the Korean culture is PC bongs, right? You have these cafes with a bunch of computers for people to come and play games on. And it's normal for you to go and play games. And when a game becomes popular, well, remember what I said about when something becomes popular, everyone in Korea kind of adopts it because, I mean, you're like a tiny little clique, I guess. Um, yeah, everyone when Brood Wars was the thing, everybody played it, everybody watched it, everybody understood it. It became part of their culture. And it's very different when think of like Mario. Everyone in the US knows what Mario is and probably played a little bit of it. But even when I was growing up, there were people who didn't play it but knew about it. Nowadays, if I would bring up a name like Overwatch, people wouldn't really know what it is. My parents wouldn't know what Overwatch is. But if I went to Korea, if I was a Korean child, my parents would know what League of Legends is. That's how clicky it is. And I'm using the word clicky very loosely. Watch previously how I defined clicky. And that's very important to recognize because when League of Legends became a thing in Korea and they got their server and it became very famous, very popular, and the number one, game played in PC bongs. Well, guess what? Everybody knows about League of Legends. Faker is an icon, right? Think of like Stephen Curry. The president knows who Stephen Curry is. The the vice president knows. Pretty much everybody knows who Stephen Curry is, right? Because he's like an icon here in the United States, and worldwide. Not just the U.S. But Faker is an icon in Korea. Everybody knows who Faker is. And that's something that we don't really have that here when it comes to video games because it doesn't work the same way. First of all, we have a lot more people. And second of all, the way the culture and society is situated here in the US, gaming might be a part of our culture, but there's no specific game that is like part of the US culture. Whereas in Korea, League of Legends can be seen as part of their culture now. I mean, League has been it's like 14 years old, and for the past 14 years, the other thing is like in Korea, it doesn't take as much time for things to become popular as it does here in the US. For things to like integrate socially because they're so small and they're so tight, and things travel very, very quickly, and everybody adopts everything very fast. That's one of the advantages. It can be a disadvantage too, right? Of Korea. These societal norms, when something becomes popular, it becomes a norm, and when it becomes a norm, it becomes respectable, and you have to honor it and whatnot. So it's the Korean culture gives a benefit to League of Legends. The president there knows who Faker is. There was I had met an older Korean, and I mentioned Faker's name. He was like, "Of course, I know who that is." But I mean, he doesn't know a single champion in League of Legends. He's never played the game, but he knows who Faker is. It's like asking a someone here in the U.S. like, do you know what a travel is in basketball? They've never played basketball. They probably wouldn't know what a travel is. But you tell them Stephen Curry, you tell them LeBron James, they know who that is, right? Because that name is so popular. Um, so yeah, that's a benefit that the United States does not have. I don't know. I keep mentioning the U.S. because I'm not from. I don't know much about Canada, so I can't really speak to them. I'm just kind of. I don't want to also lump them in and say, hey, they're the same as the U.S. So I'm not saying NA, but when I say the U.S., I mean pretty much a big portion of North America, and I might use them interchangeably. We don't have that. What Korea has. And when something becomes so popular, when a single team becomes very popular, it's so much easier to tap into that to watch Faker play because everybody knows who Faker is, right? To watch Genji because everybody knows what Genji is, right? The other thing is they have very big companies, T1, Comcast, like um telecom obviously, and Genji, KT, like these are big companies that have teams. And the other thing that you have to realize is Korea has very few big companies. What I mean by that is like you go to school in Korea, there are like three schools that everybody wants to make it the Sky schools, right? Seoul University, Yonsei University, and the Korean University. You make it into those three schools, you're like the top of your line, like Ivy League, consider it that way. You don't, and you basically feel like you failed, right? There's like what other university? It's like one more university that's like maybe acceptable. I forget its name, but yeah, there aren't that many schools that people look up to, and when you're part of those three schools, those are the schools that the big companies hire from. You have obviously Samsung and what's the other Korean? Is it Hyundai, right? There are very few Korean companies that are like worldwide that are like a big percentage of the country's GDP, considering they're just like one country, one company. And when those companies like do something, everybody knows about it, even if it's in the gaming sector or whatnot. So there's that added like aspect of when a big company has a team and that team is popular, it's going to become even more popular because everybody uses, telecom or whatever it is for their internet provider. or everybody has a Samsung phone or whatever it is. So there's that also added benefit that you don't really see um, as someone from the US. You don't. It's like if Pizza Hut had a team. Well, everybody would know the Pizza Hut pepperonis or whatever, right? You, eh, it would be a lot different than Cloud9, who, unless you're in the gaming scene, you don't know about them. Shopify is pretty much our first team that's like that, where I guess Golden Guardians were kind of like that, but they weren't really advertised that way. If you, yeah, think of Pizza Hut having a team, or Shopify having a team, or what's a big company like Pepsi having a team, right? Or Red Bull having a team. Those are big companies that have big influence. And it's a lot easier to get viewership when you already have a massive consumer base, right? People already have a reason to attach to that team because you're Pizza Hut, and I think Pizza Hut is better than Domino's. Because you're Pizza Hut, and I think, and or because you're Pepsi, and that's my preferred beverage over Coca Cola or whatever it is. Because it's Subway, and I like getting Subway on Wednesdays because of their meals, whatever it is. We don't have that in the US, but they have that in Korea. That's another cultural aspect that when you're looking at viewership and you're like, oh, well, Korea has like 10 times the viewership of the US, of the LCS. Yes, but you have to understand why that happens in Korea. And when you understand that, you need to understand where our viewership in the US comes from, because it's not really comparing apples to apples. It's not just that the LCK has a more entertaining broadcast or it has better teams. There's a whole skew of things that go together to making the LCK have such high peak viewership compared to the LCS. And I'm not saying that the LCS can't reach those peaks. I'm saying, why does that happen? The things that are more cultural, it's very difficult for us to replicate. So let's not copy the LCK in the things that they do that are very cultural and not something that we can copy, right? My father doesn't know who Bjergsen is. My mother doesn't know that either. But they both know who Stephen Curry is. It's very likely that in a Korean household, someone my age was a father, would not know who Bjergsen is, would not know who Doublelift is, but would know who Faker is because he's an icon, right? It's kind of like saying, "Do you know Twice or something like a what's not Twice? Um, what are they called? BTS. Like everybody kind of knows about them because they're so big. Faker is like such a big icon. I don't think we don't understand how big he is to the Koreans there, but he's a huge icon. Um, and instead of emulating them, we need to realize there are some things that are cultural, and then there are some things that we can emulate. Like for example, the broadcast and how, maybe the format, the way they advertise. There are a lot of things we can copy, but at the same time, we need to recognize what it is that we can emulate, what it is we can learn from, and what it is that there are differences that we're not going to go after because it's a cultural aspect and we have our own cultural aspects. Understanding the platform you're on, understanding the culture of the people that you're talking to, the culture of the people at that platform is very important, because if you talk to them as if they're Korean, well, it's not going to work. If you try to market to people the way Koreans market, it's just not, it's going to fall flat. um, a lot of time people don't enjoy humor from other countries because they find it bland or they find it cringe or they find it different. But it's it really culture is very, very important into understanding, into making connections with people. Dig and IMT have made zero effort to build a team culture for years now. Yeah, Mel, completely agree. Well, I think they put in some effort. I just don't think enough. Especially Dignitas, Immortals. This split have tried a little bit. They hired this girl. I forget her name. I always forget her name. To do some like content. They did some content early on that was fun, but they kind of stopped. Dignitas hired Sylvix Productions. They made some good videos. They just didn't like making videos isn't enough. Um, at least the type of videos that they did. So it's pretty low effort. I'd say they look very, very low effort and they didn't make it a priority. Um, but I agree with your sentiment, Mel. Um, the other example I wanted to give is Brazil. Brazil has sports, right? When you think Brazil, you probably when you think of sports in Brazil, you probably think soccer, right? Or football if you're from Europe. And it's not like Brazilians don't have people that like to play basketball or like to play volleyball. Volleyball is pretty big there too. But like if I were to look at the resources that the government itself or like the populace puts into soccer versus any other sport, I'd say 90% of it goes towards soccer and then 10% everywhere else. In the US, it's not like that. In the US, there's like 30% for basketball, maybe 30% for football, and like 5% here for swimming. And it's so split up that we don't have that sort of population base that can all come forth to do one thing. We're so different. We're so spread out that you sort of have to understand that here in the US that it's not like Korea, it's not like Brazil. We don't have these aspects that can bring us together. We're much more individualistic and one school might, have all of its efforts in the football team if you're from Texas, and another school might have all of their efforts in the basketball team if you're, in New York. It really depends. The video shows some staff are trying, but the top. Yes, I agree with that. I think the management has put in no effort. I think the people that are being hired are trying. I agree with that statement, Mel. The orgs just aren't doing right. No one works together towards common sentiment. Yeah. I think it's very important to understand as well that like what people in New York care about is going to be different than what people in California care about. What people in Oklahoma care about. What people in like Delaware or Indiana care about. It's going to be very different. And if you're trying to approach people in Korea, they already have something common that they can all gather around. We don't have that here in the US. It's different. We need to recognize that and we need to utilize that to our advantage because it might be more work, but it's actually in some sense easier to connect with people. If you've ever seen an advertisement where one of your favorite celebrities is like, let's say I live in Maryland, so a celebrity would be like, "Hey, Maryland, I'm coming on tour. I want to see you guys. Come to the Baltimore National Convention. We got a booked out. It's going to be a cool night." That is so much more authentic and feels like he's speaking to me. And it's an easy way. Like I'm not saying we should geolocalize. I think there is a time and place and an effort that we can do that kind of stuff. Um, NFL obviously does it pretty well, the NBA, but I do think that understanding our culture is very different. And when the reason I decided to make this is people to go live is because a lot of people are just thinking about how the LCK basically times 10 the peak viewership of the LCS in their finals. And you need to understand that we cannot do what the LCK is doing. Obviously, we can get way more viewership, but we can't do it the same way they do. We can't have when we have a very different culture, we have to take a very different approach. That's just fact, right? Right? No one works together towards yeah. Um, we just have a different culture, and so we need to identify what those cultural points are. And the reason I spent a whole bunch of time talking about the culture of Korea is so we understand we have to actually innovate. Yeah, I don't think so actually. In the gaming scene, we have to innovate, Mel. But when it comes to like, if you just look at how people grow in the United States, and you take that and you apply it, it's pretty common sense. You look at how Disguised Toast, you look at all these like YouTubers, for example, entertainers, and how they grow their followings on YouTube and on Twitch and whatnot, and what they're doing. And you look at what teams are doing, and the teams are doing exactly the opposite. The teams are like, no, we're going to invest in everything that is not that. That's a bit harsh for me to say. Obviously, it's not completely true. It's like um, Gary Vee said this, they're like half pregnant, They're like, oh, we recognize that this is a field that we should be doing and because that's how everyone's doing it and they're being successful. So we're gonna, dabble in it just a little bit. And when it doesn't work on day one, we're gonna say, it doesn't work. We're gonna go back to spending millions of dollars to try to win and then not win because only one team gets to win every split. Two teams don't get to win. FlyQuest made it to the finals, they didn't win. Yeah, it's innovative. Like Jack said it best when they had back in August. Well said. Thank you, Mel. Back in August, there was this owners interview that happened before finals. They had Steve, they had Jack, and they had Disguised Toast on. And Travis asked a question about sort of content creation in the League of Legends field and the LCS field. Disguised had his response, and then Jack responded, and he said, "Well, we are competitors. We're not, entertainers. Disguised is an entertainer, and we recognize that we are lacking in that field, and there's a lot for us to learn, and we're excited to see what Disguise does because there's a lot for us to learn." And then obviously my problems with Steve being like, "Yeah, that's not important." That's like basically the vibe he was getting like, "Oh, grifters are the ones that do that." Like the whole like entertainment thing. We're just gonna be professional and we're gonna be a company that everyone looks up to, like from a movie from the early 2000s or something, which is like, come on, man, you're not that old. Um, so we need to understand what the culture is here locally, first of all. So if you're in Los Angeles and you're not activating in LA, which from what I see, teams very rarely, unless it's like a finals watch party, which is great, don't get me wrong, very rarely actually activate throughout the split or doing MSI or things like that in their local area. LA is huge. California has like 40 million people. I don't know why you're not. Think about this. California has almost as many people, has like what is it? 20% less people than all of Korea? Something like that. It's like California is like 80% the population of South Korea. You don't need to go far, right? Making it understanding the culture and the context of LA or of California, and then like what you were saying, innovating and in terms of the gaming field and figuring out how to make that your base and make people in California excited for you and know about you, because there are things here in Maryland that everyone in Maryland knows, but if you're not from Maryland, no one would know, right? One thing is like we're right next to DC, right? And everybody knows about the Washington Memorial, about a bunch of museums. There's Baltimore National Convention that just everybody knows about if you're in Maryland. Um, like there are a bunch of hotspots that oh, that's a Korean word, but there's a bunch of famous places here in Maryland that you might not necessarily know of. But like for example, in New York, you would ask a person in New York, they'd be like, "Oh, I know these like really good places. There's like this piece of place, this place, that place, things like that." And it really does matter to the culture of the place that you're in and understanding what you're doing has an effect not just on like you can target everyone globally, but you can target locally. And the fact that you're not doing both without locals, you have zero base. Yeah, I agree, Mel. Like I think you have a very fuzzy base. I think IMT tried to do that with like the Great Lakes and we're Michigan, and they just did nothing with it. So I don't want that to be a thing. Like I don't care if you don't do it officially, right? I don't. If you're Cloud9, I don't want you to be like, we are LA Cloud9 or whatever the Los Angeles Cloud9ers or whatever it is. But just activate in that area. Make people excited that you're there. You know, the benefit of Cloud9 being in LA should not be I get to watch them play at the Riot Arena every weekend. That should be one of the benefits. There should be way more benefits. That should be like so much more going on. I think Team Liquid did a pretty good job when they opened up their Alienware facility. Like they had a bunch of people coming in, but like you need to do it at more local levels. Like you restaurants should be involved. You know, supermarkets. I mean, boba tea shops. Is pretty popular with gamers. Like there's so many things that you could collab. Clothes stores, apparel. Like there's a lot of things that you could be doing. Um, D&D is a big thing, Magic the Gathering, like, there's so many other games that you could get your feet into with the local fan base to become Team Liquid fans, to become Cloud9 fans. That is very, very different than Korea. The path you have to take here in the United States is different than in Korea. You have to understand, you know, the culture of the people that you're around. And when I see the comparisons of people comparing what happened in Korean finals versus the US finals, and saying, "Oh, why didn't we do the LCK finals opening this way?" because it was so cool. Well, yes, we could have done that, but that's not going to times 10 our viewership. That's not what it's about. All of the groundwork for the years that Dignitas and IMT, like you said, Mel, have not done any sort of team culture building or anything, that's what matters. That's what makes it so that people want to watch Team T1 is because they have Faker. And look, if we had Bjergsen versus Doublelift in the final, we still wouldn't times 10. Not today, especially if they were on 100 Thieves. Like, don't get me wrong, 100 Thieves are doing their best, doing a good job. But again, it wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't be 2015 or 2016 like Doublelift versus Bjergsen. It wouldn't, or even 2019 when they played in the finals. It just wouldn't because of the culture that we live in. If Doublelift and Bjergsen were professional players in Korea and they had that same following, it would be so much bigger. It would be actually 10 times bigger. If LCS teams branded around star players, fans would grow. I agree, Mel. I just think it's very dangerous for teams to do that. Like we had C9 do that with Mango and TSM do that with Leffen, like Bjergsen Doublelift. Yeah, but the problem is there are very few players that you can trust for that to happen. You know, like the idea of a player leaving and then that kind of like crushing all your branding is kind of scary to teams. I think Cloud9 has a player that they could do it with, Blabber. I think Team Liquid at some point was afraid, if I'm not mistaken, that they might lose Core JJ. Like they don't expect Core to retire there. I think it takes a few more years. I think we need another like 10 years of LCS before we can actually do something like that. Because once you have a long enough history, you'll have people who just want to be Team Liquid fans for Team Liquid players for life. You'll have like who's some like a Surdy who has never played on a professional team and has watched this team since he was like 5 years old, or like a sniper, and wants to be a 100 Thieves player and gets his opportunity and wants to be that rock that plays with them for the rest of his life, whether they're winning or losing. I don't think we're there yet. There's very few people. Like I can think of Faker, obviously. Gen G has gotten rid of everyone that won back in, when did they win Worlds? 2017. Not a single player is there anymore. Ruler was the longest standing one. He left. Doublelift obviously on CLG, and then he left. Bjergsen left TSM. I think right now Blabber is the longest standing. Well, no, it can't be Blabber. It has to be Core because Blabber technically didn't start. He was on Cloud9, but he wasn't starting in 2018. 2019, he didn't start at all, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Then 2020 is when he really started. So basically, Blabber and Core might be two players. But if you're Shopify and you go all in on Insanity and then he leaves like 2 years later, or you're all in on Bvoy or even if it's the coach, like you're all in on Revan and then he leaves like 2 years later, which is what happens very often. I would love for that not to be the case. I would love for there to be star players. I think that'd be really cool. I just don't think we're there yet, unfortunately. Um, I think it's easier for LCK teams to do that because the top teams are so top heavy, and it's easier. I don't know actually if that's true. I don't know. I have to think about that. Definitely not easy for the LPL teams. There's so much money to go around, and they have luxury taxes, and it's just a different society, different culture completely. That maybe it works differently for them, but at least here, the US and the LCS, which I understand the most, it's pretty hard. Bjergsen was the longest standing one for a very long time, and then obviously he left. Um, I wonder if he still has the longest. Yeah, money is the biggest thing. I wonder if Bjergsen still has the longest tenure because he joined in 2014, right? So 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, he retired technically, but he was still on the team. So it's like either 7 or 8 years on a team. About 8 years because he was a coach there as well. Yeah, no one has that tenure. But yeah, you really need to understand the culture, the local culture. Sneaky was close. Oh, you're right. Sneaky was 2013. One split on 2013 because they didn't make it the first split. Then you had 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. 19, and then they got rid of him. So it's 6.5 years. So yeah, he was like one split less as a player. Wow, that's crazy. I forgot about Sneaky. He never officially retired, or never did like a retirement thing. Kind of like Afromu. He just kind of well, Afromu at least said he's not going to play anymore. But Sneaky was just like, yeah, I'm looking for a team, and then year after year, he was just like looking for a team, and then stopped looking for a team, which is kind of sad. But he was cool. I liked Sneaky. Um, yeah, the other thing is the way understanding how fans react is another thing that is very different. The way Koreans fan treat their players is very similar to how they treat their celebrities and their idols in general, not just K-pop idols, but actors and whatnot. There's a very heavy Korean culture around that. One thing we don't understand here is the sort of the idea of ambassadorship. That if I'm an American, right, and I am playing in the LCS, if I'm like who's who is like Busio, for example, right? He's going to MSI or APA, like from the winning team. If I'm APA and I just won the championship and I'm going to MSI, I'm representing North America, but I'm not an ambassador to North America. What I mean by ambassador is Koreans put their idols at such a high pedestal because to them, if a Korean idol were to do something that is inappropriate, even by Korean standard, not global standard, but just by Korean standard, does something that is inappropriate, all of a sudden you are shaming Korea because we're such a tiny country and the world doesn't know about us. It's changing now, obviously, but like it's barely been 10 years since like Korea's been so popular in the West or around the globe that they put so much pressure on these idols because it's like no people don't even know what Korea is or where it is on a map, and all they know is you. And you're gonna go out there and do something to make us look bad, right? They're also very communal, whereas in the West we're very individualistic. And so the expectation of fans from the idols and from people who are public facing is very very different than we do here in the US. When I mean, if someone becomes big like Taylor Swift, she can do whatever she wants. If the whole world knows about her, who cares what she does, right? Does she make good music? Do we enjoy her music? That's pretty much it, right? Am I a fan of hers or am I not? I don't. Whatever she does, no one's gonna think that oh she's making the U.S. look bad. Very rarely does that happen, unless like a president or something where people disagree with and be like, oh my god, people think we're idiots. Uh, In general, people don't care about that, and so you need to understand what the fans actually care about. Gangnam Style is the first time most Americans heard of Korea? Yeah. I don't even know if it was most. I think well, yeah, maybe most. Um, because obviously there was a Korean War, that we were a part of, but afterwards, yeah, I'd say Gangnam Style, because our history classes are not that great. I'm pretty sure a lot of people don't even know that we were involved in that war, um, which is sad. Completely random, but I know a few people, like I was reading a book, the Diary of a Young Girl, right, Anne Frank, and what happened during the Holocaust and whatnot. And I was reading her diary, and someone asked me like, "Hey, what's that book you're reading?" And I was like, "Oh, it's the Diary of a Young Girl, Anne Frank." And I was like, "Oh yeah, that's like." And then we were talking about it. And I was like, "Yeah, it's fiction." And I was like, "No, no, no, it's not fiction. This actually happened. This is her physical diary. It's like translated, obviously, but this is her diary." I was like, "What? No, that must be fiction. That actually happened." And I was like, "Dude, what is the U.S. system like? U.S. education system? Please, what happened? How did?" Ah, yeah, that was a shock to me, but I digress. I don't know how I got to that. I was talking about fan culture. The way fans activate with the teams that they like, the fact that Anne Frank is an English class thing is so weird to me. Oh, and not like a history class? Yeah, I know, right? Uh, I was like, I'm pretty sure I read it in English class. It's not even taught in history. Yeah, I just realized that. I realized that that wasn't part of history and it was part of English. Wow. Yeah, art history, I just remember learning nothing. I remember maybe I just didn't have a good history teacher. but my history teacher definitely didn't do a good job of making me feel how close a lot of the things that happened were until I got interested in history myself, and I was like, "Oh, wow. World War One at some when I was younger was, like, close the distance between my grandparents and World War One is less than me and like, World War Two. I'm forgetting what I was thinking, whatever, it was, like, the fact that World War One was so close to me was very surprising, and how the effects of world wars changed everything around us. A good history teacher makes a huge difference, for sure. Yeah, it's crazy that things that happened, 30 years before I was born, my parents lived through that stuff. And I went back and asked my parents about a bunch of stuff that happened in the world wars, or not the world wars, but like historically, and be like, "Oh yeah, I remember we were like kids in school, and like they told us like don't go to school today and you guys stay home and like bunker up, or we were all afraid." Well, that's not necessarily my parents. I just ask a lot of old people, right, from different countries, and be like, how did you experience this event? I think a very um cool thing that we were able to see through the LCS was the Masu drive video, where Masu wasn't old enough to really to remember, but his parents like went through war and had to leave, and it was something that, like, obviously it's still happening now, but yeah, the polio, grandparents, yeah, there's so much stuff that my parents or my grandparents or people who are older than me, like, that I tend to make friends with people who are older than me just because I enjoy their, like, learning from, like, their stories and hearing what happened to them. Um, I was gonna say I have a thing for old people, but that sounds really bad, so I'm not gonna say that. I enjoy the company of older people, and hearing stories, and they have they have experiences that I read in history books, and it's like, "Oh, no, it's something that just happened, like, not too long ago." It's crazy that could have so much history classes and not know how history has affected us is another thing that I really dislike. Um, World War II is a big reason why we have airplanes the way we do. Like, we can travel to all these places around the world is because World War II put a heavy emphasis on aerial combat, and therefore, after the World War II ended, planes became much more common of a thing for commercial and for whatever, the public and not just war. So it's yeah, history class, just education in general is really sad. Not to say that other countries don't have good or bad education system, it's different. I think different countries have their own problems. I have big problems with the Korean education system myself, because I'm aware of how it works and whatnot, and I've had a lot of talks with Koreans about that kind of stuff. But I digress. Um, Understanding culture of it, right? Like, school doesn't talk about the cause and effect of history. They usually just try to get you to memorize facts for the test. Yeah. I mean, I'm happy that personally my school did that, because if it wasn't that way, I may have went into history and become a historian and be jobless right now. Joke, obviously, but yeah, it's quite unfortunate. Um, we just focus on doing well on tests and not learning, which is sad. But hopefully it changes in the future. I know there's a bunch of people that are working on it, and yeah, I mean, it's not going to change today, but you take one step at a time. Um, Fan culture, yeah, I want to talk a little bit about fan culture here in the U.S. and how you you really need to give the fans what they want. It's very different than how it was in the past. In the past, it was you had a fan, you had like a big following, right? Whether it's like 100,000, 200,000, whatever, a million, and then you would kind of sort of just do whatever you wanted, and the fans would just take it because they would take what they got. At least when I was younger, right? When I was younger, if I was a fan of like a player, I would just wait for his interview to come out, and then I would take whatever I got. If he came out with merch, that's what I got, right? Nowadays, it's not like that. Nowadays, with live streaming, with the opportunity to be a fan of so many different things, right? In the past, you had a newspaper, and that's how, like, With a newspaper, there are a limited number of pages. There are a limited number of ad slots. If you wanted to reach people, you had a you had to fight other people, right? And then the price would go up, and only the people that could afford it would be the ones that were able to communicate with other people and to do social media, right? To use an older term, not the what social media is now. Nowadays, it's not like that. Nowadays, anyone can open up a YouTube, any rando can start streaming and to people, and there are hundreds of thousands of big creators across the globe and small creators that are pumping out content, that are pumping out reasons for you to care about them. You don't have the luxury of deciding when and where you communicate with your fans. You don't have the luxury of deciding what and how the fans are going to get. That's just not how it is here in the US. You have to understand where the sort of attention span is going here in the US, and it's going to, again, it's going to five or six places: Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, or X, TikTok, LinkedIn. Those are the places people are on. And if you're not on there and respecting the culture of that place, if you're treating your Twitter like a LinkedIn and page and tweeting that way, or you're treating your LinkedIn like a community post on YouTube, it's not going to work for you. You need to understand the platform. When I, as a person, am on LinkedIn, I'm looking, I'm thinking, I'm in a different mindset. LinkedIn. It's true, Robin. LinkedIn is huge. LinkedIn is like one of the biggest growing platforms. Um, I even know people who go to LinkedIn instead of Twitter now, which is crazy because it's more professional. But I don't enjoy the LinkedIn culture at all. Um, but yeah, LinkedIn organic. I mean, maybe a year, 2 years ago was even bigger. Whereas just like very little um, supply and so much demand. So many people were on LinkedIn, not that many people were posting, and there were really not that many ads. And so it was a really nice place to be on, if you were posting or if you just wanted to see stuff. But it's changed obviously in the past couple years, but it's still growing. And you need to understand. I didn't know you could. I can't see what that word is. You could post on LinkedIn. Yeah, you can. They made that change a few years ago, actually, maybe 2 3 years ago now. They made it so it's like kind of like Facebook, but for jobs. And then there's like this whole area where it's like sort of just like Facebook, but you could also use it for like networking and jobs. So it's like dual purposed, and it's a nice place where you can do both. Um, it's really good if you want to get a job, but it's also good to make professional connections. Um, So it has its benefits. It has its little niche that for a time was growing massively, and then it kind of slowed down a little bit. It's not as big as it was like a couple years ago in terms of like growth and people joining, but it's still big. It's still like there's a good attention amount of attention that's on there, and like you need to understand that about like what type of person is on YouTube. What is the norm that's on YouTube? What is growing on YouTube? What is growing on LinkedIn? What is growing on TikTok? What is growing on Twitter? What do fans expect? What works with fans? What do fans enjoy? And you need to provide that, because otherwise you're just going to become irrelevant, right? Not looking at you, Immortals and Dignitas, but Mel did call you guys out. You're not providing to the fans what the fans want. I swear, I have no doubt in my mind that if Dignitas or Immortals were to treat their teams rather than competitors first and then entertainers second, switch it around and be like, we are entertainers first. We are going to be doing this YouTube thing, this Twitch thing, and then competitors second. We're still going to be getting eighth because guess what? We're eighth always. We're always last. We're always bottom two. So it's not going to make a difference there. They would times 10 their viewership. They would times, honestly, not even 10 times 100, like their amount of impressions that they get. There would be so much more sentiment around it. People would care about the players. People would care about the team. People would actually want to see the team succeed and not just see how many times they can get eighth without Riot kicking them. I don't know why you don't do it at this point if you're Immortals. Like, it's been years. if you're really gonna build a team, they actually tried this year to build a team, like a developmental team, a 2-year project, and then they got rid of that whole thing. They just like burnt it to the ground by getting rid of the coach. And they're like, oh no, we're still committed. Like you're not. You might think you are, but it's not gonna work that way. IT people on LinkedIn are especially weird in my experience. Yeah, there's a lot of weird people on there in my experience. If I almost got a job actually on there. At the end, I really didn't want it, but I was doing language stuff, and then a big app for language learning contacted me. It was like, "Hey, do you want to do a course in Arabic teaching Korean?" Because I was teaching Korean and English at that time for beginners, and like, "Do you want to do it in Arabic? Because we already have one for English." And then we went back and forth, and I just didn't like what was going on, so I was like, "No, no." And it kind of ended there. But, I mean, it was had it gone through, it would have been a significant amount of money for that I did not expect, or even have any reason to do it. And this was back in like what, 2020 or so? So, um, right around the time LinkedIn just started growing. It hadn't reached that peak of like 2021, 2022 when it was really big, but there are opportunities there. If IMT embraced being eighth, people would be hype 100%. That's a great idea. Yeah, I mean, you don't even have to say, "Hey, we've decided we are gonna be eighth place." Like, you don't want to do that. Teams around you don't want to hear that. Like, your CEO who's or whatever, like your management doesn't want to hear that. But if just like the general manager who's like gonna be below like senior management just decides every time he signs a contract, there's like a streaming, there is a amount of YouTube videos that you have to do, amount of posts that you have to do. Every single one of like there's a team of editors who understand the YouTube, who understand TikTok, and every person has like an account, and then there's a joint. It's almost like I'm explaining what Optic did. And let's look at the Optic YouTube. Do they have like what 3 million? It's at least a million. I don't know, three. Optic Gaming, and this is just a like joint channel, Optic Gaming, 1.5 million subscribers. Um, that is 10 times more than many other teams. Just in, I'm just gonna look at the past month. They had almost 2 million views in a month. Right, so, our teams don't get that the entire year. Um, They don't have to say eighth, but if they say they value content over performance, that's sick. I agree. Yeah, LCS Orgs did the opposite of that. It used to be Cloud9 official, now it's Cloud9 lol. I mean, I actually like that they split up. I think there's a place to put lol stuff on the Cloud9 official, but I think that Cloud9 lol. Personally, I don't subscribe. I didn't used to subscribe to a lot of the team's stuff because they would have like games I don't care about, especially when they started expanding in different games. So I do think that makes sense. But what I was saying is like you have with the example of Immortals, you have tactical and Ole. There's obviously all five, but let's just say tactical and Ole. They have their own streams, they have their own YouTube channels, they have their own TikTok stuff, they have everything. But then there's also IMT Law, which has videos that maybe once a week a different player posts something that is more like generic or broad, rather than just his own thing onto that, which is what Optic kind of did. And then you have like so that the IMT channel is growing at the same time. Oops, sorry. At the same time, all of these other individual channels are growing as well. It would be really cool. I would love to see like sort of like an Optic in the LCS, but unfortunately, let me look at the Immortals YouTube channel. That's gonna be sad, isn't it? If I compare it against the Optic one. Uh, IMT lol. Immortals. Oh lord. Their last YouTube video had 100 views. Okay. 17,000 views the past month. As compared to Optic, who had 1,797,000. Okay. It literally over 100 times. Okay, like a compilation of what's going on with team members, like stream stuff, other content. Yeah, stuff like that. Or, maybe a podcast, right? Maybe like you have um Armeo, Ole, and Tactical have a podcast on the IMT channel, or like they can continue posting the stuff that they post. Like they're posting like, "Who's that baby?" Guessing baby photos. Back to the LCS. Can you guess what happened next? Presented by DX Razor. Dude, DX Razor must be so sad. 100 people. Dude, you could have told me. I would have tweeted something. It would have gone more than 100 impressions. How does it feel to dwarf an LCS? Hey, Robin. Sad, very, very sad. Team podcast would do numbers. It would. I mean, look at the. Uh, I'm gonna share my screen actually, just because I'm talking a lot about stuff that I can see and you guys can't see. Share screen, optic and share. Yeah, look at. So this is Immortals, right? And then we can look at channel stats. 17,000, and this is up on like over double. By the way, they're improving. They've lost 100 subscribers in the past month. They've lost 100 subscribers. Dang, that's impressive. I didn't know you can do that. But yeah, 17,000 views. Look at Optic, 1,797,000 views, and it's up 61%. Don't get me wrong; like they're growing. 10,000 subscribers versus negative 100. But look at what is their name again? 100T. Why does their channel not show up? 100 Thieves. There we go. 1.52 million, which is pretty good. And then when we look at, why can't I see? There we go. Wow. This is down 1%. I mean, their league thing is not that big on their YouTube channel, but still, that's impressive. That is really impressive. But yeah, what I wanted to show was, oh, I'm on the wrong channel. That's why. 100 Thieves Law. There we go. Okay, I was very confused. I was like, wait a minute, something makes sense. But yeah, they have this like podcast thing that they're doing. It's doing, it's not bad for 2 episodes. They've only done 2 episodes, which is pretty good. I mean, even they dwarf this -100. I don't believe it anymore. Yeah, it seems really weird. Okay, maybe that's weird, but regardless, um, I do think that this would be really cool to do a if you were consistent, like if every week you had a podcast episode that was coming out, people would subscribe for that. You would get a bunch of people like subscribing. Or in podcast, yeah. Uh, Meteors is doing great on C9. Yeah, Meteors with his C9 thing is pretty good. Which is funny because I will not take credit for this, but C9 Law. I specifically called out last year, why does C9 not use Meteos to do a podcast with the players? And then they did it. I'm just saying. Yeah, 16K, that's pretty good. 29, 13. I mean, eh, 72K. It's literally like their first year, and it's doing pretty well. I think teams are like waking up to this. Like, oh wow, they had over 1 million views this month in a month. That's insane. I wonder what from where. They must have like a video that's popping off or something. Oh, they had a bunch of videos. They had this one and they had this one here. Where's the one where Berserker gets mad? Was it this one? Yeah, it's not okay. I mean, still, that's pretty impressive. You try harder than IMT upper management, though. It shows the numbers for a reason. I mean, we can look at my YouTube channel, and we can look at the past month, and we can compare your channel. The past month, by the way, I've been traveling, and I have been barely posting. So 37,000. Is that still more than Immortals? Oh, that's hilarious. I literally did nothing the past month. These are like shorts. I think I have 0 video. Oh, I have some lives, but 30. This is sad. This is sad. All right, let's just look at February because that's the month where I like did most of my stuff. 7,000. Impressive versus February. This is not to stroke my own ego. This is just 419,000. Okay, maybe it's a little bit of stroking my own ego. Um, but yeah, back to your question, how does it feel to dwarf a League of Legends team? It feels really sad. Just data collecting, I know, right? It feels really, really sad because it's not like I don't want these orgs to succeed. Like when Immortals back in what is it, November at this point, decided, hey, we're doing this 2-year project. Sharks came on a podcast with me to talk about what is IMT doing. Ole came on to talk about his expectations for the team. I got excited for them because I I'm a fan of 2-year projects. And so when they came up and were like, "Hey, we are doing a 2-year project," I was like, "Oh, snap, I'm excited." And it's just sad how things turn out where like you have a project and you're not showing it off to the people. Like in the past 3 months, 30 1 month, by the way, 1 month where I'm literally haven't done anything. Where is it? March 1st to 31st. 1 month 0. Okay, that's not how it's supposed to look. Okay, I think this thing is dying. There we go. 1 month where I'm not even in the country and haven't posted like anything versus a month where you posted. Yeah, I don't know. That's just I. It's sad. It makes me sad. Um, I was excited for them. They fired Sharks, and now maybe I'm a little happy that they're not doing well because and there's still people I enjoy on there. And there was a time where people like watched their videos. There was a time 7 to 8 years ago where people actually watched the stuff they posted. Dang, I forgot about Hoon. Wow, Hoon was popular. Arya Saki. Fan creation, Super Saiyan Huni, 93,000 views. Just become the meme team and do a bunch of that stuff. Like at this point, it's probably worth it. But yeah, I think Cloud9 have been doing well. 100 Thieves like have been doing well. They need to. Another thing that like yeah, shorts is like where a lot of these teams fall short. Haha, no pun intended. I didn't even think about it. This is back when Doublelift was on the team. I mean, come on. Here as well. Where is it? Shorts. Like they recognize that shorts do pretty well. They're just not as consistent with it as they should be. Immortals, you think they have any shorts? They do. Wow. I mean, I don't know. You definitely should be doing more shorts. When was this one, by the way? Curiosity. Description. April 12th. Then we're gonna go 5 down, right? So we're gonna go one column down, and then we're gonna see here. When was this? December 11th. You can't make this up, man. They're paying someone to do this, by the way. Oh my god. They should play into their Scream Team reputation. Although, yeah, they should. They should do something. I think that's what the conclusion we've gotten to. Like, do something. Oh crap! What just happened? Okay, dude. December 11th. Since December 11th, they have done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shorts. You tell me this is a serious organization that's paying thousands of dollars to people to create content for them? Come on. Come on, man. They have the videos. That's the other thing. They have the videos. Just chop these things up and like post them as shorts. You have like you Jelly doing stuff. Oh wow, 200 views. Her YouTube channel gets more views than this, doesn't it? Wait, hold up. I did not mean for this to be a let's content guy got fired. No, no, no. She's still there. She's still there. Where is she? She's still there. Where is she? Where is she? Where is she? I follow her. I think profile following. IMT. Wait, do I have to search here? IMT? No, no, it's here. Wait, she's here somewhere. IMT, that's one. Wait, where's the other one? Oh, this is the other one. I will find her. I know she's here somewhere. Is it fair characterization that they're basically just sitting on a league slot, hoping it appreciates in value? Yes, that's 100% what they're doing. I There is no other explanation for what they're doing. It makes no sense if that's not what they're doing. Where are you? It's not Jensen. Ah, I'm getting tilted. I need to find her. Maybe she doesn't have IMT in her name. Maybe she did get fired and she doesn't have IMT in her name. Uh, Noxor, Hershey, Doc. Oh, this is gonna take forever. Where is she? Reba. There we go. Yeah, she's still there. She's still on Immortals. She retweeted something from a couple days ago, so I think she's still on. She probably made this. Big two, she gone. No, she's there. She's there. Um, I'm sure it's not just her. She's just one person who's doing a bunch of stuff. But oh yeah, I was looking at you, Jelly, right? You is it? Wait, is that how you spell it? No, wait, it's like that, right? Is her name you, Gelly? Then pretty sure her videos do better than. Oh, she doesn't post much, but when she did used to post, her videos do so much better than when Immortals post them. Also, what is this thumbnail? There's so much going on. This is such a better thumbnail. It's still like people we have no idea who they are, so it's kind of hard to. Yeah, I don't know. Like this thumbnail, I wouldn't recommend. This one, like, just don't put the players here. Put the baby pictures and like question mark whatnot. I don't even know what this thing in the middle is. I really have no idea. Um, her days are numbered. I hope. Yeah, look, you have a bunch of. She does a bunch of stuff for their channel. It just doesn't do well when she does stuff for the channel versus when she does stuff for her own channel. She's a streamer first and foremost, so like we can look at her Twitch. Her Twitch probably does a better job at showing what she does. Um, yeah, she has like 90K followers, and you can see like 13, 2 days, 5 days, 7 days, 8 days. She streams pretty often. You can see like her Twitch streams get numbers, um, but she doesn't post often on YouTube. But when she does, it does a lot better. So I don't know what. Wow. Oh, this is a tragedy. She should definitely be posting a lot more on YouTube. She makes so much more money on YouTube if she started co-streaming or like dual streaming or oops, I meant to click shorts. Does she do shorts? When was this? First kiss gone wrong. Okay. May 26, 2023. No. Oh, wrong monitor. Oh, you can't see? No. Wait, why can't you see? Wait, this whole time you guys couldn't see? Oh man. Wait, how does one. Oh, I know what happened. When it's only sharing one tab. I don't want it to do that. No. Uh. Oh, so it was working fine, and then it just stopped working. All right. I think this is it. Yeah. There we go. Before that, it was working. Something I've been wondering: does more educational content just not do well? Couldn't orgs get their player to do guides or review style content? All right, you hit one of my pet peeves. Yeah. So you Jelly, I was looking here. I'll just go over. Like she has, um, the videos 200 views here. This is like 2000. This is the best one. 340, 800, 600, 400. But then when you go to her YouTube channel, her YouTube channel does a lot better. Like 20. Oh, this is 800, 25K. Like she doesn't do it very often, but I just go to Twitch real quick before I answer your question, Rob. Yeah, she has like 90K followers. All her streams do like really good numbers compared to like the YouTube channel. So the fact that they can't utilize her numbers is kind of sad. Um, the thumbnails that I was showing earlier that were like really bad were here. Like, what is going on here? There's just like this whole I don't know what's happening here. There's way too much going on. Like, why is the build here? Um, this like what is that? You should have a baby, like just baby faces over here and trying to guess that rather than having not babies looking at it. Yeah. I don't know. There's stuff that they could improve, obviously, but I think that was it. Upper management might be restricting what she can do, or IMT judging. I think it's incompetence. I doubt upper management knows who you Jelly is. Um, I'd be surprised if they knew. Yeah. So Robin was saying that why does education content not do well? It doesn't do well, and there's oh man, I'm gonna share my screen again in a second once I find the tweets. Uh, Probably can just look at my own tweets. Uh, Profile. How do I search my own tweets? There must be a way. I don't know how to do it. Whatever. Um, I won't share my screen. My take on educational content. Well, I'll start with other people's takes. They say they think that educational content doesn't do as good as other content. And my argument has always been it's not because people don't want educational content, it's because you do educational content bad. You think that educational content means boring, stare at a screen, explain how something works, and that's it. When you're doing educational content, you need to put just as much effort as when you're doing entertainment content. You need to play by YouTube's rules. Just because it's educational all of a sudden doesn't mean you don't play by YouTube's rules. There's this very famous guy who got cancer. He's like the guy behind a bunch of the crash course content and whatnot. And they get millions of views on his TikTok. And it's all educational, but he understands TikTok. If you're doing content that's educational in nature, you still have to play by YouTube rules. So I think that there's a huge market. I will share my screen. I'm a liar. Share screen. Window. Boom. And I will go to YouTube and I will do this. Team fight breakdown. Jat. Look at this. Jat has team fight breakdowns, right? He used to have them that are doing huge numbers 600,000, 400,000, like 375,000, 236,000. By the way, thumbnails could be so much better. Even the title as well. I don't know. You'd have to experiment. Like some of them do the one with more recently hasn't done well, but again, I think you could have done a better job with thumbnail. Regardless, there is a very big these are all educational, but we'll just watch one real quick on we won't even watch the whole thing. I'll just scroll through some of it. But like look look at all the editing that goes on. There's like a bunch of editing and pause and like it looks nice, it feels nice, the sound effects are great. It's entertaining to watch, even though it's educational in nature. Now, you could take the same concept of like not heavily edited, but like properly done videos and do that for educational content. It just requires a really good editor, honestly. And it takes longer to do, but it just the numbers are there. Educational content does well on YouTube. Good educational content. And what I mean by good is not like the amount of knowledge that is in the thing is good, is great. Like for example, an article is very well written. It's not just about that. Is it made when I say good, I mean YouTube good. There's good thumbnail. There's good editing. The pacing is good. There's a lot that goes into a YouTube video to make a YouTube video good. And if it doesn't work, my argument has always been it's not because educational content is bad, it's because the people making it are not adhering to YouTube. Like bonks. What is bonks? Or do you mean like bonkers, as in the word bonkers? Dr. Bonks. I'm not sure what you mean, Mel. But another person who's like really big, Bonks has edu content on YouTube. Oh, I'm not aware of who Bonks is, but yeah, I mean, if he's someone who has educational content who's oh, I see him. Okay, okay. Um, yeah, I've actually never really looked for him, but, he seems memey. Just from, like, the thumbnails, he seems like he's someone who'll teach you something with a bunch of memes going on. It's like, a bunch of kappas, just it's well edited and thumbnails are solid. Yeah. Just from looking at his thumbnails and titles, I get that kind of vibe, which is really cool. Micro guides for all lanes, and then someone crying, and I think a Zoe jump. Oh, that's Chovy crying. The tear is so big I couldn't tell, and then a Zoe jumping onto the yeah. Um, I might reach out to him. That's cool, and just to talk. Um, but I think that educational content has a place if you do it well. Um, Again, understanding culture, not just culture of people, but understanding the culture of the platform, right? If you people are more likely going to want there's good educational content. There's this guy named Leota who does great content. He's IMT analyst and scout, but he doesn't edit his videos in a way that would make it more appealing for other people. And so people don't watch it. And he knows that. So I've talked to him about it. He's not doing it to become a big YouTuber. He's doing it to get it out there, which it depends on your purpose and whatnot. Yeah, I would love for IMT or Digging Toss to honestly, I would love for every team to become creator and a content creator and a competitor. But Vigar V2 is similar. Yeah, Vigar V2 is a good example. I haven't watched his stuff recently, but he has a bunch of like TikToks. I've watched a bunch of his TikToks. Um, and I think his YouTube channel does pretty well, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, coaching someone. I don't know who that is, but I mean, yeah, is I would change his thumbnails a little bit, but honestly, his channel's pretty good. 114 videos with 23,000 subscribers. That's not bad at all. Doesn't care about algorithm, just posts sometimes. I see. Yeah, I think if he took it seriously, more seriously, probably be different. But for 114 videos to do this well, that's pretty dope. That's pretty dope. I would love to be in his position. Um, but yeah, I would love for more content to come out of teams that's not just content what they think is good. I don't want you to make something that you think is good. I want you to find what is already working. I don't want you to innovate. Now that I think about it, just do what works. And what works is not what you think works. Is when you go and you check and you find out, hey, this works. I wonder why. And you actually figure out why it works and you analyze it. And then you bring in the people who've actually made it work and you utilize them because you're probably gonna come to wrong conclusions. Just historically speaking. Yeah, I actually hadn't seen his later stuff. He was putting more time into it. Yeah, I actually was hopefully soon we'll have an interview with Vigar V2 that'll be on the channel talking about why teams mental boom when going to international events and things like that. But what's supposed to happen over this weekend had to reschedule, and just hopefully soon I'll get that out. I also have a couple other videos that are in the making. One of them is almost done. It's sort of like a mini movie of the spring split of LCS. Really got to remind us right before MSI. Well, that's the whole reason Fly said to boom. No, that's the whole reason I asked him. Like I reached out to him and I asked him like, why can we talk about this? He's someone who's been to Worlds. He's seen this stuff like happen firsthand, and so as a fan, I want to understand why this stuff happens. That's part of the reason I got into interviewing to begin with. It wasn't because I wanted to highlight. I wanted to be a really cool interviewer. I don't think that's my um strength point or anything like that. It's more that I want to understand. Like when I had my interview with Raz, I wanted to understand what the LCS is doing. When I had my interview with Kelsey Moser, I wanted to understand more about coaching. When I had my interview with Peter Dunn, I wanted to understand why coaches failed in North America. And a lot of what he did was describe the difference in culture between Korea, EU, and NA, and how it's different. And I want to understand why teams mental boom because it's something that when I talked with Jan, he mentioned how his performance, he was like getting better and better and better. And then he went to Worlds and he just like, his performance went all the way down. And it was specifically because Team Liquid imploded. 2020 TSM. Apparently, the first month of scrims was going great, and then right before stage happened, like they just kept losing and losing, losing, and then mental boomed and they went 0-6. There's a bunch of teams who like go to Worlds and then implode. And as a fan, I can sort of say, oh, maybe if you lose in scrims, that can happen. But there are so many times where G2 lost 20 games to Damwon and then beat them 3-1 in the semifinals of Worlds to make it to finals. Like, how does that happen? Or was it quarterfinals? Whatever. What yeah, I want to understand it more. So that's why I'm asking him. Yeah, it sounds really interesting. And Western teams don't talk about it anymore. Just looking grim for Fly's mental. Yeah, that's an insane stat. Yeah, G2 like Damwon and Kia were so happy when they had to play G2. Well, they weren't Damwon and Kia back then. They were just Damwon maybe. I think they were just Dom. Yeah, they were still just Damwon, and then they lost. They like were crushing G2 in scrims, and then they go on stage. G2 wins game one. Damwon wins. Yeah, DWG. And Damwon wins game two, and then G2 just wins the next two games, and Damwon's like sent home crying, and they win Worlds next year. But still, it was quite sad. They got their revenge in semifinals, but they really did not expect to lose. It was crazy hearing from G2 players. I think Perks was like, honestly, we were like, all right, we'll just get this over with. The G2 team had plot armor. It did. It did. Yeah. Up until against the LPL teams, they had no armor, but against Korean teams, they definitely had plot armor. What a world we'd be living in if G2 won Worlds that 2019. It would be very, very different. They beat SKT twice. Yeah, they beat them in MSI semis and they beat them in World semis. It really was plot armor. That game 5 with Pike top, oh my god. Makes you want to relive those days. G2 has done a very good job at marketing themselves, at branding themselves. Not just the whole winning, but like if you look at the YouTube channel, they have like a bar of quality, and they always try to keep that up. They always pumping out content. They just understand social media a lot better than other teams. If a Western team beat SKT twice this MSI, it would be insane. If they got 2 games, it would be insane. Like if we took them to game 5, that would be awesome. I doubt that's gonna happen. I have very little faith, and I did a stream like a couple days ago talking about this, but I think North America will succeed if we do very good when it comes to marketing. This is the best opportunity we have. We have millions of fans that are going to be watching MSI, all of them interested in professional League of Legends. North American teams, where are you? You need to be out there in the field, like posting a bunch of content and getting people to see you and know you exist, because they want to engage with MSI content, right? If you're watching MSI, you probably want to engage with the content. So give them MSI content, give them your teams your players reacting, give them players predictions, have a podcast talking about what the results of the game, whatever it is, get involved, because you will not find a better curated um, selection of fans who want to engage with professional League of Legends besides 2 international events every year. You have and North America is in a very dire state. We probably only have 2 more shots before like we have to merge with CBLOL or whatever is going to happen. So really make sure you utilize this opportunity to create fandom. It definitely felt like that middle period of LoL esports history was a transitional period for the way that the game was played, and Korean teams where we used to succeed took the longest to adapt. Yeah, Korea, honestly, I don't even know if Korea adapted. I think that they had like specific teams that just they had Damwon that just like broke everything. Um Damwon played like an LPL team. And that's part of the reason why it's a great time to do it with NRG beating G2, even if we lose to LPL and LCK every time. If LCS is neck and neck with EU, the fans will be yes. With the new format is set up, yeah, I completely agree. There's so much for you to care about right now as a North American fan, and there's so much opportunity to get North American fans who don't watch LCS that watch MSI or watch LPL. Like, if you're only watching LPL, you're going to be watching MSI. If you're only watching LCK, you're going to be watching MSI. If you're watching EU LCS, you're or LEC, you're going to be watching MSI. If you're watching CB or LLA, whatever it is, there's so many people, so many eyes are going to be there. It's like the Super Bowl, right? The reason a Super Bowl ad television commercial is so worth as compared to regular TV commercials is because everybody comes around to watch the Super Bowl and the commercials. Like watching commercial events, commercials at Super Bowl is like an event. Everybody wants to do it, the halftime show and all that stuff. It's like something you want to watch. And so there's a lot of attention there. And so it's worth to spend, what is it, like $7 million or whatever crazy amount of money you have to spend on an ad for the Super Bowl. But other times it's not worth it. And it's the same thing for like teams. There's so much attention to MSI. Now is the time. Organic content, even if you have to, like, if you get good organic content, if you have like a really cool post by Blabber that goes viral on TikTok, you take that, you put ad behind it, like come watch uh, Blabber doing or Meteos doing his interviews with C9 members and talking about MSI whatnot. You get people to come and watch and become fans. The fan acquisition is going to be so cheap as compared to like any other time. Um, Too bad the way seating works. Playing has goddamn T. Oh, play-ins has goddamn T1 and probably TES would be nice for players to serve as a way to have more Western teams showcase matchups. Uh, yeah, dude, it would be so sad if one of our teams, like, if Fnatic or FlyQuest don't make it out. That would be very, very sad. Hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully everybody makes it out. But going back to the topic of this whole like stream, the culture of MSI and the culture of Worlds is very different than the culture of LCS and the culture of LCK and the culture of like LEC. The type of fans, the type of engagement that you can do during this time, it's so valuable to these teams. And I don't know what all teams have prepared, but I know some teams have nothing prepared. And that worries me because especially if you're a team that doesn't have a fan base. If you're honestly all the teams, but if you're Dignitas, Shopify, Immortals, this is the opportunity of a lifetime. Like, especially for Shopify, like it is your first split. Nobody knows about you. You can get millions of people who aren't even in North America to know about you. It is a gold mine of an opportunity. Please don't waste this. Like, I cannot. I might just do a whole video on this, but the problem is I have too many videos like coming up. I have the interview with Vigar V2. I have another interview with Mazel. I have another video, like the mini movie that I was talking about. Okay, I see. I have the interview that I was talking about, and then I have the huh, and then I have one more video, a FlyQuest hype video for MSI, and then I have a Chovy video. So that's like 5 videos, and there's like what 15 days left for the split. So if SR tried, they could definitely get Korean fans to tune in for some B-Boy. Honestly, more than Korean fans, they could get a bunch of Brazilian fans. Play around his All Pro, yeah. They got a bunch of Brazilian fans. B-Boy has a huge following in Brazil. Even when I made my video about him, like a bunch of Brazilians were commenting on my YouTube channel about B-Boy. He was on Pain Gaming, so I mean, Pain Gaming is Pain Gaming, right? I was a fan of Pain Gaming, so I still am, but I haven't watched much CBLOL the split. We still don't know who's going to MSI. It would be really cool if Pain went. It would be really sad for B-Boy, but it'd be pretty cool. Either way, I have way too many videos that are supposed to come out. Maybe I can drop. The thing is, if I make it, I could make it during MSI. The other thing is, like, I have to. They just released it today, but I want to apply to do interviews for MSI. So that's another thing that will be my channel will have so much untapped potential in this league. I agree. It's so sad that we don't have content creators collaborating with our league. Like, we just think we're competitors without the content side of it. And then we hire people like Meteos and Broxa and Spica, and LS and we don't utilize them the way we should. It's just sad. I mean, obviously, again, Meteos is doing a lot more with Cloud9. I'm really happy he's on the dive, which is awesome, by the way. The amount of people that probably care about Cloud9 because Meteos has stories from when he was on Cloud9, or the fact that he is part of Cloud9 has bias for Cloud9. It is awesome. It is very smart for me of Cloud9 to do that, or Meteos, or whoever had that idea. Kudos to him. Um, but yeah, I really want to see teams, like you said, untapped potential. Imagine if you're one team that is posting like 3 times a day doing MSI. No other team, like maybe another team is posting like once a day. People are going to be watching your stuff during MSI. After the games end, they're not going to go to like, I was going to say someone's podcast, but what do we have? The Last Free Nation, like that comes out once a week. We have, I guess they have multiple shows, but we have Kelsey Moser with her with. Like, there's very few podcasts that are team run. If you want to count the C9 one, C9 could have just a monopoly if every day after the games they had one player to talk about the games for 15 minutes. Each day you just come up, you do it on stream, heck, with the players. You just have Meteos and another player on stream talk about the games. You take it, you chop it up, you post it, you make an episode out of it, you put it on the YouTube channel. You'll have so many people subscribing to that YouTube channel to hear what Jojo Pune has to say about Chovy versus APA, or to Faker versus APA. Like, you'll have so many people. But I know that's not going to happen because they don't have 15 minutes to do that stuff because they have to be practicing. Like, you're going to watch the games anyways, just spend 15 minutes talking about it. I'm so upset. I would like more options to get my 2 to 3 people talk for 2 hours about League of Legends podcast fix. Um, yeah, Robin. Are you sure? There's so many people. We have Summoning Insight. We have Best Damn League Show, but I guess that's EU. So let's just talk about LCS. Um, the Crackdown, is it what it's called? The one with Monty and Dom. Obviously, Dom stopped doing his other one, but you have the one with Kelsey Moser, like making the rounds. You have David has his podcast. I guess there's one less podcast, the one with the LS. So, but then making the rounds change. Yeah, I guess there's like 4 or 5. I would be down for more. Like the NBA already has more. So, fair enough, Robin. I thought there were more than originally I had thought, but that is sad. I guess the one with C9 is not very consistent. The one with 100 Thieves is not very consistent, so you can't really count those. Um, well, the Crack House, that was like one less scrim game worth of time. What's the difference between 4 or 5 games the last walk? Yeah, I agree. They're not. Yeah, EML. Eh, I'm very frustrated. Well, here's the thing. I tend to watch stuff while doing other things, and I don't like autoplay, so I end up watching lots of long listen able stuff. I see. I do that too. Um, so even if the market is somewhat saturated, I personally could always use more. Ah, that makes sense. I see. I always I have so many different interesting fields of interest that I never really run out. But um like when I'm done with LCS, I'll do MBA. When I'm done with MBA, I might do like marketing stuff because I enjoy marketing. When I'm done with marketing, might be editing stuff. Like there's an editing podcast I like listening to. Um and then there might be chess, and then it might be like Civ 6, stuff like that. Agree, it's great for menial tasks in the background. Yeah. I mean, I want at some point to start a podcast, but it won't just be like what you were saying, Robin, where it's, a fix of like 2 to 3 people talking for 2 hours about League of Legends. If I were to do a podcast, it would be very different. Um, Not because I want to be different, just because my idea of like what I'm passionate about is not to sit down and try to analyze what happened during the games. Like, I'm not an analyst. I'm not Dom. I'm not Monty. I'm not LS. I'm not Kelsey Moser. I'm not like these people. Again, I know David does that. Like David uh, Shayna does his own like podcast where it's more from a fan perspective. I would much rather, if I were to do a podcast, chess tourneys scratch similar itch like Canada's right now. Oh, dude, yesterday when Hikaru lost, oh my god, I really want to see Hikaru play against Ding in the finals. Like, I want Hikaru to win. Just because last year I felt like if we had known that, whatever. he had a chance last year. He didn't take it because he didn't think that Magnus was actually not going to compete. And if he got second, it would have mattered. So he could have gotten second if he wanted to, but he wanted to go for broke because you have to get first, and then it turns out second place gets to play. Um, and second place ended up winning the world championship. But so I would really like Hikaru to win. But it's funny how without Magnus, Canada's so much more fun. But Magnus never used to compete in Canada. You mean like knowing that someone could play against someone besides Magnus for the world championship? Uh, I don't know. I think it's been pretty fun this year because Hikaru himself and Fabiano. The reason I find it more fun is because the people competing are making podcasts or like going, dude, Hikaru's the best example. Oh my god, you're a genius, Robin. Literally, after he plays a game, he goes on stream. He goes on, makes a YouTube video explaining what happened during the game. Win, loss, or draw, he still goes and he still talks about it. Name one LCS player, one LCS org that does that. You won't be able to because people think they have a real chance. Yeah, real. Yeah, I agree, Robin. It was Jan going 2 years in a row against Magnus. Like people are just like, it doesn't. If Jan wins, Magnus is just world champion. TL almost does. You're right. TL does that. They do that. They cover some games. They do it one game every week, right? I would love for them to do that more often and to chop it up and put it on TikTok. That would be such good content. But yeah, you're right. I have watched a couple of their things. They need to work on the titles and thumbnails of those videos, though, because sometimes they show up on my feed and I don't know what they are, and I just move on, and then I'll be like, man, they didn't release it, and I go and like, oh, that video that I just like didn't check was actually the Team Liquid one. I know that they. The other thing that I really care about is speed. Like it really, I know why it happens. But for example, Shopify, and Cloud9 have like a series, like kind of like behind the scenes documentary series of what happens after the games, right? And TSM Legends always used to come out on a Friday, and the games are played Saturday, Sunday. So you have like first Saturday, first Sunday. They play games 1 and 2. Then you have to wait until Friday to watch, or sometimes even Saturday, to watch the documentary. And then you have games Saturday, Sunday. By the time it comes out, you're already like more interested in the next games rather than the games that happened last week. So speed is a thing that I understand why it doesn't happen, because sometimes you want people to review it to make sure you're not leaking any strats, blah blah blah, and there's like bureaucracy. Make sure it's brand safe, blah blah blah. And so I understand why that happens, and it takes like the person filming it is usually the person who's editing it. So if you're filming Saturday and Sunday, like let's say you take Monday off because you were working the weekend, then you have Tuesday. It takes you until Wednesday to make it, and then Wednesday you send it to one person. That person approves it. They send it to another person Thursday. Thursday it's done, and then it gets improved and released. By the time the thumbnail artist gets a chance to make it, it comes out on a Friday. So it's like I understand why it takes so long, but man, speed is so important in this industry. Like, I love the fact that Hikaru does his things right after the games. And honestly, if it was a day after, or like if he just covered a bunch of games, it would not be as hype. Um, like Fabiano and whatnot. So I think that's part of the reason why I would love to see more teams kind of do that. It would be really cool if TL continued to do that during what's it called? Team Liquid Honda. It would be really cool if Team Liquids continues to do that throughout MSI, like after their games. I doubt that's gonna happen, but it would be really cool. Um, yeah, like the thumbnail is not bad actually. I don't know. I'm looking at some of the Team Liquid um like VOD reviews, and some of them I can't even tell that they're VOD reviews, to be honest. Yeah, like the first two that they posted, you can't really tell. I guess the first one has a title. The third one, rewatching, there's just so much going on in these thumbnails. I think it was the third one. I've watched all of them, it seems. Um, yeah, I've watched all of them. It's just I think the third one was like APA, call me daddy. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't realize it was that. Remind me recaps without cap. You know that thing is still going on, Robin, right? They still do the recaps with or without caps. That's one of my favorite pieces of content too. Um, Yeah, I think I've yapped for an hour and 40 minutes. Dang. Well, I enjoyed my time with you guys, Mel and Robin. Um, yeah, it's gonna be sad when Caps is gone. Only without Caps. Yeah. Actually, Caps is another person. When did he join D2? 2019. Okay, not even close. 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Yeah, 5 years. Yeah, not even close to Bjergsen's 7 or 8. In terms of like how long he's been on a team. Yeah, it was on IMT and hey, it wasn't that much of Dignitas. Like I didn't even open up their YouTube channel, which I'm about to do right now, just for I know their content. What's his name? Dig Law. You have to search Dig Law because if you search Dig, you don't get what you think. Yeah. Oh wow, Redeemed or Doomed? I will watch this. I haven't seen it. The funniest team in league history got no views. Wow. Yeah, their stuff didn't do very good, huh? I thought it did a little bit better, but I guess the stuff from earlier was doing better because I remember the stuff from like 2, 3 months ago. I was watching some of their stuff. Nowadays, I haven't really seen their stuff pop up on my shorts. I looked over it a while, like a couple days ago, and I was like, man, these thumbnails do not make me want to watch the videos. Um, and yeah, I can see why. I'm looking at the thumbnails now, and you can look at it like, but they're not that great. I just hate these orgs because we have to watch them 1 or 2 out of the 4 games a day. It feels like dead fish orgs. Yeah, they are hard to root against because it means nothing as a fan. Yeah. Hopefully you don't feel that way with Shopify. Shopify has been pumping out content. It's been their first split, so like be patient with them. Um It'll take some time, but they will SR is fun. Yes. All right. We got a fan, Mel. Um Wait, are you Mel from Shopify, the Valorant player from Game Changers? No, there's no way, right? That would be hilarious. I wish they made playoffs. Me too. Me telling a Shopify player to be a Shopify fan. I doubt. I'm a C9 fan. Okay. Oh man, that game. I'm not that guy. Yeah, I know. Funnily enough, I like both of the rosters, but the org decisions are awful. Especially the Shark thing. I agree. I was cheering for Immortals until they kicked Sharks and said nothing about it. Like Sharks left his country, left his family back home. By the way, he has a wife and daughter, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe 2 daughters. But he has a wife and kids. Left them back in Belarus, comes all the way here to lead a 2-year project, and after 4 months, you get rid of him. By the way, in all of the reviews, you never told him, "Hey, you're not doing what you should be doing," or "We want to go in this direction." Nothing. It's just like out of the blue, after telling him, "We are so happy, so satisfied with you doing. Great job. Like, even though we finished last, this is probably one of our best splits. Our scrims were great. Our players have been improving. Like, the community sentiment around us has improved. Like, oh my God, we are moving in the right direction." So, therefore, the most logical conclusion is to fire you. And by the way, we're still committed to everything. Yeah, it's so frustrating. Also, isn't Rich like huge in HOTS? Yes, where are their collabs with other Hearthstone players, or like having other Hearthstone players come on the channel and be like, "Oh my God, watching a previous Hearthstone player play." Imagine if a Faker on the roster. Exactly, exactly, exactly. They dropped the ball so hard. It is crazy. It's sad. These orgs got no loyalty in the long con. I like I feel as just like a if my boss were to one day be like, "Look, you just got promoted, right? We love what you're doing. You're doing amazing. Everything about you is great. Your numbers phenomenal, right? You're in your group, no one does better job than you. But we're moving in the same direction. But you're fired. But we just had our performance appraisal like last week, and you promoted me. Yeah, we're so happy. We love what you're doing. But we're moving in a different direction." And then what do you say? "Oh, no, we're still committed to our 2-year plan. We just think that this is the best path forward." Like, no, you. I also love how Rich played with Rookie and Dig in the year. Was it? Yeah, in the same year. What an interesting turn of events. Yeah, I should ask him about how he feels about playing with Rookie. It's frustrating, honestly. There's a lot of things that happen in the scene, and that's part of the reason I started this channel is, like, I wanna show the world specifically the LCL. I don't think they will change, by the way. I wanna show them that it's possible, and so that when they don't change, I can legally crap on them, because it's just frustrating. Like, I had no idea my YouTube channel, while I was away, not posting anything, got more views than the Immortals channel that was posting with a full-time hired position. Like, ay caramba. No Deus. I don't understand it. It's so frustrating. I do understand it, but it frustrates me to no extent. It's so bad. It is. It's worse than I thought. But yeah, Shopify will not be like that. Um, the content they're posting, they're new on the scene, so it's normal for them to like be learning. They have their style. They're trying to incorporate that kind of stuff, and they pushed way more content than Dignant Immortals, for example. Um, and yeah, they came in pretty late, so it was kind of hard. Like I know a little bit behind the scenes, it was hard for them to like find a rhythm. But next split, it should be better because now they have pieces in place. Like this kind of stuff takes time, which is understandable. And myself, like I will keep pushing Shopify because I enjoy like name me a single Shopify sponsor, right? Team Liquid has Honda, Kia has, NRG with Kia, like whatever team you know that they have some sponsor. Immortals has Progressive. Shopify doesn't have a sponsor. Shopify is their own sponsor. Shopify, yeah, but they're owned by Shopify. It's not necessarily a sponsor. It's so relieving not having to have deliverables for other people and you can do what you want. It is like game changer, honestly. Um, I will I will try my best to it's funny, a lot of people think I work for Shopify. I don't. I have no affiliation with them. I would love to work with them in some, like, sense, but, yeah, I'm just a fan. And I think that within this time next year, I would not be surprised if Shopify well, I was gonna say top 4, but we only have 8 teams. I will not be surprised if more people tune in to Shopify on a weekly basis than Cloud9. Cloud9 is doing some stuff. Then let's say who are the top 3 teams? Oh, FlyQuest, for example. I think that Shopify are going in the right direction. They'll be like top 3 within a year, and within 2 years, I think they'll be top 1. Um, they don't even have the excuse the LCS is dying when small content creators are translating them. Exactly, Robin. That's the whole like you summarized an entire video that I made where I just like went on and on about like this 10-year-old girl who gets 10 million average views on every single one of her shorts. If a 10-year-old girl can do it, what are you doing? Like, I showed a bunch of like streamers or like league TikTokers that have so much more following than freaking Team Liquid. Team Liquid Honda, by the way. And I was like, look, if they can do it, then why don't you just like figure out what they're doing, what you're not doing, and then do it too? It's not rocket science. I'm not telling you to be innovative and create and do this. Things are working. Just hire the people that are doing the stuff that's already working. Why are you trying to reinvent the wheel? Ay caramba. I love that they're trying to be the Revan team. I like that too. Yeah. Um, they have identity or fun to watch. Content will improve later. Agreed. Just do the industry minimum. Well, the industry minimum is nothing is Immortals. So I don't know about that. When you mean industry, you mean the YouTube industry? I agree. Yes. Do the YouTube industry minimum. Um, all right. This stream has gone on uh, quite long. I need to get to editing my video so that I can post it. Hopefully, I'll post it Tuesday, which is tomorrow. Yeah, TikTok, YouTube, minimum. Yeah, agreed. TikTok, YouTube content. And then, sorry, one last comment, and then I'll end the stream. One thing that frustrates me is when people are like, "Oh, we post content, people don't watch it." Like, look at Immortals or Dignitas; they're posting stuff, people aren't watching it. Guess what? You didn't do a good job. Good luck, brother. Keep carrying. Thank you, Mel. It's look, if people see your video and don't click on it, if your video doesn't get views, your thumbnail and title need to improve. If people click on your video but then don't keep watching it, your intros need to improve. If people, it's just the reason people aren't watching your stuff isn't because your stuff is amazing and people don't get you or people don't actually want to watch this stuff. People are watching League of Legends videos. It's not like no League of Legends content creators are getting any views. No, they are. You're not getting it. The problem isn't you. Stop making excuses. All right. With that, adios. It was really fun hanging out. Thanks for coming, Mel. Robin as well. And then I will see you guys later.